Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and I just cost the shop over $1,000. I lost the shop $1,000 today, guys. Was it worth it? Let's take a look what happened on this Range Rover Evoque. Let's get started. So this 2013 Range Rover Evoque just came in from a local dealership that allows us to work on their higher end cars, and the blower motor didn't work. And it's so hot in Kansas right now. They were like, we can't sell this car like this. No one's going to buy it, and the blower motor doesn't even blow 1 ounce of air. It does nothing. If you've seen on a previous video, there was a black L322 Range Rover that was in the shop. I think it was a 2012. And it had where the evaporator core was bad and it was leaking, and there was no magic fix. There was no way around it. You had to pull the HVAC case out, the whole dash. If you watch that video, you'll be astounded. There's just carts and carts full of parts and parts. But this situation didn't have to be that way. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and the experience allows me to cut times really drastically. And sometimes it saves the customer a lot of money. We'll go ahead and take a look around this car. We'll look under the hood, and then we'll talk about what I did and how I lost a lot of money today, but not really. Let's take a look. So this looks similar to your Land Rover Discovery Sport that you had, Mrs. Wizard.
Yeah, it does look quite similar.
That's because it is the same chassis. And we'll see here in a minute when we open the hood, it is the same engine. Basically the same setup, just a little different look and a little different body. I really like the look at these. I think they look very nice. It has the quintessential Range Rover look to it, but it's obviously a very small one. It's a 4-cylinder. It's a turbocharged 4-cylinder under the hood. This one's in pretty good shape. This one will be able to go on sale because we have fixed the blower motor problem. Everything else is in good shape. Doesn't need extensive repairs. All the fluids are good. No damages on this side. No cave-ins. It does have a nice glass roof. I do like the panoramic roof. The roof, however you say it. And again, this side is also very clean and very nice. It does have these housings right here. They're kind of cloudy. That could be cleaned up before they put it on the lot, but that's probably a detail job. Let's go ahead and open the hood. The bonnet. That looks very similar to your engine, except this one says Range Rover. And we know better than that, don't we, Mrs. Wizard?
We do, because looky right over there. Ford Motor Company.
FOMOCO. This is not a Range Rover or a Land Rover. It is a Ford EcoBoost 2.0 Turbo. Which is great, because if you watched me and Mrs. Wizard's video on her car, there was a lot of parts we were able to purchase that were just Ford parts and saved a lot of money. But that wasn't how we saved any money on this one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the interior, let Mrs. Wizard give you the tour, and then it's time to talk numbers. Then we'll put this thing in the air and take a look at the bottom.
So ladies and gents, as always, let's start with the dash. And we see it's got 86,000 miles on it. It is not January 15th, 2009 though. I kind of hope it was, because it is 105 today outside. It is a little bit steamy. So not sure why that is, but we've got a nice dash setup here. Looks like it's in good shape. Leather dash, obviously no cracks. It does look a little bit different than the Disco that I had. Just have some areas that are the same. It does have the standard Land Rover shifter dial, but being that this is a couple years older than the Disco I had, there's a few small changes in it. It does have lots of leather in places, leather seats. And on this door over there that we can see, it's got like a good stereo setup over there, looking quite nice. Headliner, it's looking good. It does have the cover on over the panoramic roof, and the back seats obviously are looking in good shape as well. So overall, being that this isn't a very old car, it's in really, really good shape. The one thing I do wonder is if the people traded this in or sold it because they couldn't turn on the blower motor. That's kind of scary, because this is a really nice car for such a small problem. But since we're in this area, let's go ahead and let the Wizard show us what's wrong.
So yes, Mrs. Wizard was right. The part we replaced was in the driver's footwell. But the problem we found, we checked fuses, We checked power to the blower motor. We checked all kinds of different things. Then we scanned it for codes through the HVAC control module and found issues with the blower resistor or the blower control module, which is this little guy right here. This is the bad one. It has a 4-pin connector. It just literally twists into place like that. And it's got little cooling fins. So the part itself is not super expensive. It's the labor that's super expensive. Let me show you. Okay guys, I have the factory book time on this job. 2013 Range Rover Evoque. Blower resistor, 11.9 hours, almost 12 hours. The dash has to come completely out to get to the blower resistor. You have to reclaim all the Freon. You have to pull all kinds of things apart. You have to pull the steering wheel down. It's a massive, massive job. In the shop, including tax, freight, shop supplies, everything else, it would have been around $2,000 to replace that blower motor control module. I've done several of these, and with my 20 years plus experience, I am able to replace that in half the time. If you remove the gas pedal and the bracket assembly that holds the brake pedal and move some of the carpeting and some of the insulation out of the way, it is very tough to do, but it can be done. You can reach way up in there and disconnect the connector. You kind of do it blindfolded. You can't see what you're doing, and you by feel you twist it and pull it out, and it takes quite a bit of wiggling and fighting, and you finally get it out. And it takes almost twice as long to put the new one back in because it's quite a deal. If I were to have a 1 or 2 year mechanic do that, I would have probably heard a lot of cursing, and I would have heard this phrase: it can't be done. I've been doing this for long enough that I know it can be done, and I know how to do it. The way that I did it does not damage anything. I didn't have to reclaim any of the Freon from the AC or refrigerant. Even though it's called refrigerant, I call it Freon, and I really don't care if anyone thinks otherwise. I call it Freon. And after removing those things I just said, I was able to get to it, again, without hurting anything. When the dealership dropped this off, they kind of thought it might be the blower resistor, and they said that they don't trust their techs to pull the whole dash. They're fully accepting that the whole dash has to come out. If this really was any other shop, they would have. That's a no-brainer. They're ready to pay for the whole bill. They're fully accepting of the whole bill. Let's hammer it home. Let's give it to them. And they agree to it because they can see the same labor hours on the paper I just showed you, and I could have charged them the full amount, done it in way significantly less time, but I didn't. We don't do that here at Omega. I am more interested in long-term profits because I want them to keep coming back 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. I will make a lot more money off of this dealership than I would if I just stuck it to them in this one instance. There was a few other little things that we did also on this vehicle, but instead of being $2,000 at the end of the bill, it was $1,000. Their blower motor's working again. That's more profit for them to make. I still came out okay because I was able to do it in significantly less time. And to be honest, guys, it's 105 degrees. I really don't want to pull the dash out of this car, even if it makes me an extra grand. I just don't want to do it. And I knew better. It can be done without pulling the dash. So that was the path that I chose. So make sure to keep that in mind. If you find that reputable mechanic who's honest and upfront with you and occasionally saves you a great deal of money, don't go quoting times or say you found this on the internet. Don't piss off your mechanic. If he's a good guy, he does good work, and his prices are fair. I didn't say cheap. I said fair. Make him happy, and he'll make you happy. Just like I'm going to make these guys happy when they get the bill, and they're going to be like, whoa, hey, thanks. That saved us a lot of money. Let's go ahead and get this thing up in the air, and let's take a look underneath. So no, this vehicle does not have air suspension. It doesn't have hydraulic suspension. It has standard springs. So I don't need to put it in any kind of weird jack mode. Let's Let's go ahead and take a look under this thing. There's a nice little shield in the way. Even though we can't see the engine, if there were a massive leak, it would be coming out of this little hole, and this whole area would be wet. So that's a good sign that we don't see anything there. Check our brakes, which are only about 25% gone. They've got a lot of life left. Struts are nice and dry. Nothing loose there. There's a little ride height sensor for the headlights and traction control and things. Sway bar link is nice and tight. You can look on the back side of the engine here. There's the back side of our little EcoBoost 2.0. We don't see any massive leaks or anything going on, so everything looks good there. Check our drive shaft. That looks good. We can see the back side of the engine and transmission, and everything looks good in there. Go ahead and check this wheel. Brakes are good. Sway bar link is good. Struts dry. Move on back. This is an all-wheel drive vehicle, so we do have a drive shaft going to the back. Everything's good there. Large exhaust pipe. Right before our little Haldex unit, which is the differential traction control type thing, we see that this has kind of a CV shaft looking drive shaft. And one thing I want to mention to you guys is that they are not rebuildable. I've had this fight many times on Jeeps, Land Rovers, multiple different vehicles that use those particular drive shafts, and I've taken them to driveline shops. That's all they do is drive shafts day after day after day, and I bring them to them and they're like, nope, we're not even going to touch that, bro. I'm like, you can't rebuild this? They're like, nope. So if that drive shaft, if that joint went bad, the customer gets to buy an entire drive shaft. That's just the way it is. I've talked to other fellow mechanics, and it's the same situation even in other states. They're like, yeah, it's really crazy. Why is that not rebuildable? Why is there no service for that? There isn't. So if your drive shaft joints go bad, you get to buy a whole drive shaft. Okay. Look at that little baby CV shaft, Mrs. Wizard. It's tiny.
It's just so cute.
Our sway bar link is good. Here's our electronic parking brake. Pads look good. Nothing loose there. Strut is nice and dry. Nothing's leaking out of the differential or the, this is a Haldex unit, I believe. Yes, it says Haldex right there. And this CV shaft looks good. Sway bar link is good. Here's another ride height sensor for the headlights and traction control and all that. I always like to check these because these are made out of plastic, these little arms. It doesn't take much for them to just snap, and then this will be up here and their headlights will be all out of whack, and I always check those. Brakes look good here. Nothing loose. Tires look good. Muffler's all in good shape. Let's go ahead and get this thing back on the ground. So this car gets a clean bill of health. Everything's in really good shape on this vehicle. It's ready to go to their lot and be sold. And now we have a working blower motor without breaking the bank. So did I actually cost the shop $1,000 today? Yes, I did. Because they would have totally happily paid the full dash job. I could have done the quick job and charged them for the full job, and there would have been 0 complaints. I would have never heard a negative word out of them. They would have been fully happy with that. It wasn't any kind of cob job repair. It was a proper repair. I just know how to get to it. So that wouldn't be the right thing to do. There are times when my speed makes me more money from you guys, the customer, and there are times when my speed and my knowledge can save you guys a lot of money. It all balances out in the end. So we'll get the ticket written on this. We'll get this car out of here and I'll go back on the lot. I'm really happy to save them some money. And really, I did lose $1,000 at this moment, but the gain that I will gain over the next 10 years is so much greater than $1,000. So if you're curious what kind of tools we use to work on this, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, I really recommend you do that now, because Car Issues 2 and Car Trek 6 are going to be filmed soon. There's going to be a lot of things going on in the shop. you guys are going to really enjoy. You don't want to miss those when they come out and are released. Hit the subscribe button, guys. Don't forget. Thanks for watching.